Now, let me begin today by telling you something fundamental about the journey to success. Success isn't something you chase. No. Success is something you attract by the person you become. And if that's true, then the real danger in life is not what you can see, but what you can't. Not the loud mistakes, but the quiet ones. Not the storms, but the silent drifts. Because failure, contrary to what most people believe, is almost never a blowout. Failure is a slow leak. It happens quietly, silently, almost politely. Small errors in judgment repeated every day. Little habits, barely noticeable, stacking up until one day you look around and wonder, how did I end up here? My friend, life doesn't usually collapse overnight. It decays. And here's the danger. Decay is comfortable. It feels familiar. It feels harmless. But it is deadly, because the things you do daily, even the smallest of them, are bending your future in one direction or another, toward success or toward regret. So today, I want to talk to you about the 7 habits, 7 quiet, subtle, invisible habits that slowly kill your future if you let them. Habits Jim Rohn warned about long ago. And I want to reveal them because most people don't even know they're practicing them. They think life is just happening. They think their results are random. But nothing about life is random. Life is a design. And if you don't create the design, don't be surprised when the results aren't what you hoped for. You see, I've met people who are hardworking but going nowhere, busy but not productive, moving but not progressing. And I discovered something. The issue wasn't effort. The issue was the invisible habits running their life behind the scenes. The habits they never questioned, the habits they never measured, the habits they never even noticed. And my purpose today is simple, to help you notice them, to take them out of the shadows and hold them up to the light. Because once you see them, truly see them, you can change them. And once you change them, the direction of your life changes with them. That's the beauty of discipline. That's the beauty of awareness. That's the beauty of becoming a student of your own habits. So I want you to listen closely. Not with guilt, not with regret, but with responsibility. If you recognize yourself in these habits, don't condemn yourself. Just make the correction. That's all life asks of you. Adjust the sails. Change the direction. Strengthen the discipline. Today, you'll discover the 7 silent habits that quietly destroy potential. And after each one, you'll know exactly what to do about it. So let's begin. Habit number 1. Now, let's begin with the first silent habit, a habit so common, so subtle, that most people don't even see it as a problem. And yet, it is one of the greatest thieves of potential. It is the habit of drifting through the day with no plan, no design, no blueprint. Jim Rohn used to say, don't start your day until you've finished it on paper. And when I first heard that, I thought, finished it? On paper? Before it even begins? But then it struck me, of course. The architect doesn't show up at the land and start hammering boards together. The pilot doesn't just toss the plane in the air and figure it out on the way. And the coach doesn't begin the game by saying, let's see what happens. No, every professional begins with a plan. Yet the average person wakes up, grabs their phone, scrolls through strangers, reacts to notifications, answers messages, and spends the rest of the day responding instead of directing. And that, my friend, is drifting. Drifting feels busy. Drifting feels active. Drifting feels productive. But drifting is directionless effort, lots of movement, very little arrival. Here's the truth. If you don't run the day runs you. If you don't control the agenda, someone else will. And let me assure you, their plan will not include your dreams. Most people wake up with the day, not for the day. They wake up into chaos, into noise, into the demands of the world. They spend 8, 10, 12 hours reacting. And then at night they're exhausted but not triumphant, tired but not fulfilled, busy but unchanged. And all of it stems from this one silent habit, no design. Now, let me give you the philosophy behind planning. Planning does not limit your freedom. Planning creates freedom. When you know exactly what must be done, you're not wasting mental energy deciding what to do next. You're not wandering. You're not negotiating with your emotions. You move with clarity. You execute with confidence. 10 minutes of planning can save you hours of confusion. 10 minutes of design can rescue a day from disorder. 10 minutes of intention can separate the productive from the overwhelmed. So here's what I recommend. At the end of each day, take a quiet moment, just you, a pen, and a piece of paper. Ask yourself 3 simple questions. What matters most tomorrow? What must get done? What can wait? Write it down. Prioritize it, because writing is the first act of creation. What begins on the page eventually shows up in your life. And here's a principle to remember. The mind loves clarity. The body obeys order. When you wake up knowing exactly what needs to be done, half the battle is already won. You don't drift, you direct. You don't react, you respond. You don't guess, you execute. Start with something simple. Pick your big 3 for tomorrow. 1 thing for your work. 1 thing for your growth. 1 thing for your personal life. Do those with intention. And watch the quiet victories add up day after day. Because discipline begins with design. Productivity begins with preparation. Success begins the night before. And drifting ends today. Now, let's move to the next silent habit, one that looks like progress, feels like progress, sounds like progress, but isn't progress at all. Now, let's talk about the second silent habit, and this one is sneaky, very sneaky. In fact, it fools more people than almost any other habit I've seen. It's the habit of confusing movement with progress, activity with achievement, effort with effectiveness. Jim Rohn would say, some people have 10 years of experience, others have 1 year repeated 10 times. And when I first heard that, it hit me like a hammer, because it reveals something uncomfortable. Not all motion moves you forward. My friend, you can run all day in the wrong direction. You can sweat, you can strain, you can hustle and still end up exactly where you started. That's the tragedy of movement without meaning. See, the world loves busyness. People brag about it. I'm so busy. I'm slammed. I'm running around all day. But here's the problem. Busyness is not the badge of honor people think it is. In fact, it often hides a deeper truth, lack of clarity. Let me give you a principle. Being busy is a form of laziness when it's used to avoid what actually matters. Some people stack their calendars, fill their to-do lists, say yes to everything, race from task to task, meeting to meeting, inbox to inbox, and they call it progress. But at the end of the week, nothing meaningful has shifted. Nothing valuable has been built. Nothing essential has improved. That's because they confused activity with accomplishment. Now, Jim Rohn taught the 80/20 principle long before most people paid attention to it. He understood that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. And the question of the serious student, the student of life, is this. What are my 20%? What are the few activities that move the needle? What are the few actions that actually produce the results? What are the few disciplines that matter? Because if you don't ask that question, you'll spend your life chasing the trivial many instead of mastering the vital few. Think of it this way. A woodcutter who swings harder isn't more effective than one who sharpens the axe. A runner who sprints off course doesn't win the race. A worker who checks 50 boxes may still accomplish nothing of value. It's not how much you do, my friend. It's what you do. And it's the order in which you do it. So here's the test. Jim Rohn suggested, simple but powerful. If you didn't complete everything on your list today, but you finished the top 2 or 3 most important tasks, could you still call the day a success? If the answer is yes, you're learning to focus on results. If the answer is no, you're still chasing busyness. Here's the cure for this silent habit. Each morning, identify your top 3 priorities. Do them before the day gets noisy. Do them before the world makes its demands. Do them before distractions come knocking. Because a productive life isn't built on the quantity of tasks. It's built on the quality of decisions. Not doing more, but doing what matters most. Stop celebrating motion. Start measuring progress. And with that understanding, let's move to the next silent habit, one that doesn't just affect your productivity, it affects your identity. It shapes your mindset, your standards, and ultimately your destiny. Now, let's move to the third silent habit, one that can shape your life more than education, more than opportunity, even more than talent. It is the habit of keeping the wrong company, staying around people with low standards, low expectations, and low ambition. And Jim Rohn put it beautifully and painfully, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. When I first heard that, I sat back and thought, my goodness, who have I been averaging with? Because this principle isn't a suggestion, it's a law. Human beings rise or fall to the level of their associations. If you surround yourself with complainers, soon you'll complain. If you surround yourself with doubters, soon you'll doubt. If you spend enough time with people who don't care, eventually you won't care either. Not because you're weak, but because you're human. Environment is stronger than will. Association is stronger than intention. You don't even notice it. That's why this habit is silent. People don't wake up one day and say, you know what? I'm going to lower my standards. No, it happens gradually, quietly, slowly. You pick up someone's attitude, then their language, then their habits, and finally, their results. See, it's not just that negative people drain your energy, they shape your philosophy. And your philosophy shapes your future. So you've got to stand guard at the door of your mind. And sometimes that means standing guard at the door of your friendships. Jim Rohn taught that there are 3 types of association decisions. Disassociation, some people you simply must break away from. Kindly, respectfully, but firmly. Limited association. Some people you can only afford in small doses. 5 minutes, not 5 hours. Expanded association, people who inspire you, strengthen you, challenge you, elevate you. These are the people you must seek on purpose. Now, you might say, but Jim, I love my friends. Of course you do. But the question is, are they building your future or breaking it? Do they celebrate discipline, growth, vision, and responsibility? Or do they mock it? If your circle laughs when you choose to grow, you don't need a new plan, you need a new circle. And you might say, but I don't know anyone successful. Jim Rohn would smile and say, then you can start with books, with audio, with mentors from afar, with wisdom that never complains and never disappoints. Raise your associations and you raise your life. Lower your associations and your life will follow right behind them. This is one of the greatest silent habits destroying potential today. People staying around people who keep them small, not out of malice, but out of comfort. But growth is rarely comfortable. Elevation is rarely convenient. And success requires association with people who expect more of you than you do of yourself. Now that we've uncovered this silent habit of low standard company, let's move to the 4th silent habit, one that affects your mind, your skills, and your long-term future more than almost any other. Now, let's go to the 4th silent habit, and this one is quiet, dangerous, and far more common than people admit. It's the habit of neglecting personal development, neglecting the mind, neglecting the growth of your philosophy, neglecting the discipline of becoming more valuable. Jim Rohn said something that changed the course of my life. Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. And when he said fortune, he didn't just mean money. He meant wisdom, influence, character, leadership, fulfillment, the fortune of knowing who you are and what you can become. But here's the problem. Personal development doesn't shout. It whispers. It quietly asks for 10 pages a day, a few minutes of reflection, a little time to think, to study, to learn. And because the request is small, people ignore it. Because the impact is invisible at first, people skip it. Because the results are slow, people quit it. And that is how the silent habit of ignorance creeps in. Not dramatic, not obvious. Just a day without reading, a week without learning, a month without a new skill, and before you know it, life is moving forward, but you're standing still. Now, let me give you a truth. You cannot live a new life with an old mind. If your thinking doesn't change, your results won't change. If your philosophy doesn't improve, your life cannot improve. Everything begins with personal development. Jim Rohn had a little test. I call it the library test. He said, if I come to your house and your library doesn't say you're serious, I don't need to see your life. The library tells me everything. And he was right. Your shelves reveal your future. Your notes reveal your direction. And your habits reveal your destiny. Ask yourself, when was the last time you learned a new skill? When was the last time you read a book that challenged you? When was the last time you took notes on your own life? When was the last time you studied success the way others study entertainment? Because here's the irony. People want to change their life, but they won't change their mind. People want better results, but they won't develop better habits. People want the future to improve, but they won't improve themselves. Jim Rohn would say, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Why? Because your job pays you for the moment, but your personal development pays you for a lifetime. So make a commitment, not a dramatic one, but a consistent one. 10 pages a day, 10 minutes of reflection, 10 minutes feeding the mind with wisdom, not noise. That's enough to change the trajectory of your life. If you neglect personal development, you may not feel the damage today, but you will feel it eventually. And by the time you do, it will already be late in the game. Don't let this silent habit steal your future. Now, let's move to the fifth silent habit, one that affects your productivity, your discipline, and your overall life force more than you might realize. Now, let's go to the fifth silent habit, one that most people underestimate until it's too late. It's the habit of ignoring your health, your vitality, your physical energy. And Jim Rohn put it plainly. Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. When I heard that, I thought, of course, where else would I live? But he wasn't talking about geography. He was talking about responsibility. Because your body is the vessel that carries your dreams. And if the vessel breaks, the dream goes down with it. Here's the trouble. Most people don't lose success because they lack ambition. They lose success because they lack energy. They don't run out of ideas. They run out of fuel. You can't do great work with a tired mind and a tired body. You can't chase big goals with low energy and low discipline. And you can't transform your life when you're constantly recovering from the choices that are destroying it. The danger is that poor health habits are silent at first. A little too much sugar, a little too little sleep, a little too many late nights, a little too little movement, and soon little becomes lifestyle. Jim Rohn used to say, some people don't do well because they don't feel well. A simple line, but it explains a lot. When your energy is low, your patience gets thin, your decisions get sloppy, your discipline gets weak, and your productivity collapses. Everything is harder when your body is tired. Everything is better when your body is strong. So let's get practical. You don't need to become a professional athlete. You don't need perfect routines. You don't need extreme diets. You need discipline, simple discipline, daily discipline. Walk a little each day, stretch a little each morning, eat with intention instead of impulse, drink more water than excuses, rest before you're exhausted, treat your body with respect, not regret. Because energy is the foundation of performance. Time management matters, yes, but energy management, that's the real game. Your goals don't need more hours, they need a stronger you showing up inside those hours. Your ambitions don't need more motivation, they need more oxygen. Your journal doesn't need more plans, it needs more energy behind the plans. Imagine this. What would your life look like if you woke up energized every day? What would your productivity look like? Your confidence? Your discipline? Your mood? Your decisions? Energy amplifies everything. Without it, even simple tasks feel heavy. With it, even big tasks feel possible. So don't let this silent habit steal your future. Protect your health now so you don't pay for neglect later. Strengthen the body that must carry your purpose. Build the vitality that must sustain your dreams. Because the future belongs to the energized. And now, let's move on to the sixth silent habit, one that affects your finances, your stability, and your long-term freedom. The habit of careless spending and the failure to master money. Now let's move to the sixth silent habit, one that destroys more dreams than almost anything else. It is the habit of careless spending, the unconscious leaking of money, and the failure to master your finances. Jim Rohn said it clearly and simply. It's not the amount that counts, it's the habit. Most people aren't broke because of one big mistake. No. They're broke because of a long list of tiny ones. A few dollars wasted here, a few quick pleasures there, a subscription you never use, a coffee you don't need, a gadget bought out of impulse. And then they say, I don't know where my money goes. I do. It left in small bills. Quietly, politely. One unnoticed decision at a time. Money has a strange relationship with discipline. It flows to those who respect it. It escapes from those who ignore it. See, money doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about your habits. And if your habits are careless, your results will be painful. Jim Rohn believed in a simple philosophy. Make your money a servant, not a master. If you don't tell your money where to go, it will leave. If you don't give it order, it will create chaos. If you don't control it, it will control you. Now, let me remind you of something crucial. Your financial life is not determined by your salary. It is determined by your disciplines. I've met people making very little who prospered. And I've met people making a fortune who lost it all. The difference? Habits. So let me give you a few Jim Rohn style disciplines that build financial strength. 1. Track every dollar. Not for the rest of your life, just long enough to wake up. Awareness is the first step to transformation. 2. Save a little each time money enters your hands. A small amount consistently saved grows faster than a large amount occasionally saved. It's the habit that matters, not the size. 3. Spend with intention, not impulse. Ask yourself, do I really need this, or am I buying feelings instead of value? 4. Invest in yourself more than you invest in entertainment. As Jim said, self-education makes the difference between rich and poor. Books, courses, skills, these are not expenses. These are engines. 5. Have a written financial plan. Not a dream, not a hope, a plan. If it's not written, it's not real. Remember, wealth is not a fantasy. Wealth is a formula, and anyone willing to follow the disciplines can attract it. Most people fail financially not because they're incapable, but because they are unconscious. They've never learned the basics. They were never taught the laws. And because the damage happens quietly, they never know what went wrong. But today, you know. And once you know, once you truly see the habit, you can change the habit. And when you change your financial habits, you change your financial future. Now, let's move to the seventh and final silent habit, one that affects everything. Your learning, your growth, your discipline, your clarity, and your direction. It is the habit of living without reflection or correction. Now, let's move to the seventh silent habit, one that quietly separates those who drift from those who rise. It is the habit of living without reflection and without correction. Jim Rohn said, don't just go through the day, get from the day. And what a powerful idea that is. But most people, they go through the day. They survive the week. They push through the month. And they collapse at the end of the year, wondering, where did the time go? Time didn't go anywhere. They simply never paused long enough to capture it. Reflection is the discipline that turns experience into wisdom. Without it, life becomes one long, repeating loop. Same mistakes, same frustrations, same excuses, same results. Let me give you a principle. You can't improve what you won't examine. You can't correct what you won't confront. You can't transform what you won't track. When you don't evaluate your days, they all blend together. When you don't measure your actions, they all feel the same. When you don't reflect, you become a victim of your own routine. Jim Rohn had a practice he called the daily review. Just a few minutes, nothing dramatic. Sit down with a notebook and ask 3 simple questions. What did I do well today? What could I have done better? What will I do differently tomorrow? 5 minutes. But those 5 minutes can save you 5 years. Because life gives you lessons every day. Only the reflective mind collects them. And then once a week, he recommended a deeper reflection, a time to sit quietly, look back over the week, and ask, where did I grow? Where did I drift? Did my actions match my priorities? Did I live by design or by default? Reflection gives you perspective. Perspective gives you clarity. Clarity gives you direction. Direction gives you progress. Without reflection, you're walking blind. With reflection, you're walking with purpose. Let me tell you something. The difference between winners and wanderers isn't talent. It's awareness. The winners notice their habits. The winners adjust early. The winners correct small errors before they become big disasters. Reflection is the secret weapon of the disciplined. It is the quiet conversation you have with yourself that recalibrates your life. It is the moment where truth replaces denial and direction replaces distraction. Now imagine doing this every day. Not perfectly, just consistently. Imagine capturing your lessons, building your awareness, sharpening your judgment. Imagine tracking your growth, noticing your progress, observing your patterns. What would your life look like in 1 year? 5 years? 10 years? I'll tell you, better, clearer, stronger, wiser, more intentional, more powerful. Because progress is often invisible day to day. But when you measure it, when you track it, when you reflect on it, suddenly the invisible becomes visible. Suddenly your growth becomes undeniable. Suddenly your future becomes predictable. Don't let this silent habit living without reflection steal years of your life. Stop each day. Review it. Learn from it. Adjust from it. That's how you grow on purpose. Instead of aging by accident. Now that we've uncovered all 7 silent habits, we can move to our final part, the conclusion, the turning point, the place where knowledge becomes responsibility and responsibility becomes change. Now, we've covered the 7 silent habits, 7 invisible forces that quietly shape your future. And here's the truth, my friend. These habits don't ruin your life in 1 day. They ruin your life one ordinary moment at a time, quietly, comfortably, gradually. Like a slow drift that carries you far from the place you intended to reach. But the beautiful news, the remarkable news is that the same principle works in reverse. Just as small neglects create failure, small disciplines create success. Jim Rohn said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Not dramatic, not complicated, just consistent. So as you sit here now, ask yourself, which of the 7 silent habits did you recognize in your life? Which ones have been draining your energy, stealing your time, or lowering your potential without you even noticing? And more importantly, which one will you correct first? Because the turning point of your life begins with one decision. Not a perfect decision, not a dramatic decision, just a conscious decision. Maybe today is the day you stop drifting. Maybe today is the day you stop celebrating busyness and start celebrating progress. Maybe today is the day you upgrade your associations, limit the negative, expand the inspiring. Maybe today is the day you commit to personal development. Maybe today is the day you decide to protect your health. Maybe today is the day you take control of your finances. Maybe today is the day you start reflecting and correcting on purpose. Whatever it is, let today be the day. Because you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. You can start the journey toward a better future the moment you decide to. Remember this, life responds to discipline. Life responds to design. Life responds to responsibility. And life responds magnificently to the person who says, I will no longer live by accident, I will live by purpose. So take these 7 habits not as condemnation, but as clarification. Not as guilt, but as guidance. Not as weight, but as wisdom. Today is the beginning of a new awareness. And awareness is the first step toward mastery. Now go out and design your life, plan your days. Choose your associations wisely. Feed your mind. Guard your energy. Master your money. Reflect daily. Do the small things with extraordinary consistency, because when you do what others won't, you will one day live the way others can't. That's the law. The law of daily greatness. The law that turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. Your future begins now. And I want you to seize it, not tomorrow, not next week, today.